Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to kick off our first annual LeadHer TeacHer event sponsored by Mary Kay. Honestly, just so grateful for everyone who's taken the time to come in and just spend some time and chat. Like, I know how tiring it is going from Zoom to Zoom. So honestly, sincerely appreciate everything. So honestly, it's already going off in the chat. I love the energy in here. So just for this evening, let's just all take off our hats and our expectations and what we have to do tomorrow. And let's be honest and open with each other. We're not here to talk at you. We want to talk with you. So please be engaged as you are already in the messages, and we'll answer questions, and we're just going to have a good time together. This is going to be a safe space. So in saying that, I do want to take a moment just to recognize the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd, which is today. You know, the world stopped a year ago today. Stopped and then got lit on fire. And we all said, no, thank you. And a line was drawn, and we saw who our allies were. In saying that, it's important now more than ever to make sure we find our sisterhood, we find just humanity. You know, the whole thing with working together and having people stand beside you, it's essential and crucial to our survival. So in saying that, I just want to observe a moment, just because, you know, we want to take in what has happened in society with George Floyd and everything like that. So again, to everybody, I'm sending peace, love, and light. And I would love to open this up by thanking Mary Kay for standing as an ally. And you know what? They saw Collective Society 360 in our team, and they said, you know what? I want to work with them. And I really appreciate that, because we're all volunteering here. And, you know, sometimes you just feel like the little guy trying to make a difference. But you know what? They saw us, and in return, we're seeing you, because we're paying it forward. In saying that, I'm going to get to the hostess with the mostest, DJ Mel Boogie. She is just a force of nature, and she has been our host for quite some time on some of our events, if anyone's come to any of the events. I would also like to thank our panelists, Linda Rose, the general manager of Mary Kay Cosmetics, we're going to get into amazing conversations. And again, guys, the panelists are awesome. Feel free, now's the time, ask questions. Linda has some great stories, and then so does McKinney, mindset coach, an author, podcaster. I think she's the top 2% podcast in the world right now. Savannah Hamilton, host and producer. Some of you guys might have seen her face with Toronto Raptors, blazing the trail, getting things done. And they're amazing, and I'm so proud to be with them. Melissa Langley, again, just going back to DJ Mel Boogie. She's a radio show host and a producer for the past 27 years. I know, right? How can she when she's only 30? So I don't know. But she's developed in marketing, and she has played with pretty much like from Lauryn Hill, Busta Rhymes, you name it, corporate, playing with in the corporate field, and being a woman trying to blaze the trail as a DJ. Guys, ask her questions too. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this mic over to Mel. And Mel, I hope I did a good job. I know you're the one usually, you know, on the 1-2. So I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thanks so much, Connie. Again, I'm super, super excited to be a part of this evening's event, and I'm looking forward to some stimulating and inspiring conversations and storytelling and story sharing. Before we get into it, I do want to remind everybody about the general housekeeping rules. I know by now most of us are familiar with how to conduct yourselves on a Zoom meeting, but just in case, we are open to questions like Connie said, but if you do have any questions, we don't want to interrupt any of the panelists who are speaking. So kindly post your question in the chat. And we have moderators behind the scenes who are keeping track of those questions, and we can address them during the Q&A period. And of course, just to keep everything moving smoothly, please keep yourself on mute. And yeah, that's about it. It's pretty simple. We're going to kick off this evening's discussion by watching a quick video courtesy of Michelle Obama. Please watch the video.
For those of you who may not know much about my background, I grew up in a working class neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. We lived in a really small apartment. I often woke up at 4 in the morning when the house was finally quiet, just so that I could concentrate and finish my schoolwork. My parents told me every day I could do anything. I could grow up to be a doctor, a lawyer, a scientist, whatever, but only if I worked as hard as I could to succeed in school. I did everything in my power to be a good student. I dreamed of one day going to one of the best universities in America. But despite my efforts, there were still people in my life who told me that I was setting my sights too high, that a girl like me couldn't get into an elite university. And after a while, I started to wonder, well, maybe I was dreaming too big. And the fact that I was a girl and that I was Black, well, that certainly didn't help things either. You know what it's like when a family struggles to make ends meet. And the world needs more girls like you growing up to lead our parliaments and our boardrooms and our courtrooms and our universities. We need you. And that starts with making sure that every girl on this planet has the kinds of opportunities you all have to get the education and to succeed. As you've heard, right now there are more than 62 million girls around the world who are not in school. Girls whose families don't think they're worthy of an education or they can't afford it. Girls like Malala Yousafzai, who are assaulted, kidnapped, or killed just for trying to learn. One of these girls could have the potential to cure cancer or start a business that transforms an industry or become the next president or prime minister who inspires her country. I see women who are going to win elections and science competitions and arts awards. I see leaders who will inspire folks not just here in Tower Hamlets, but all across the country and all around the world. That's what I see. Because I know what's inside of girls like you and like me. I know how hard we'll fight for our families, how deeply we care about our communities, how much of a difference we can make for those around us. And I've seen it again and again and again, that what our parents told us really is true. That if we get our education, we can do anything. We can lift up ourselves to heights we could never imagine. We can pay forward all of the love and support that our families have poured into us. And we can truly be, as Dr. Ogden says, builders of a new day. That is your work. That's my hope for you.
Okay. Well, that was a way to kick off the whole discussion. While we let that video marinate a bit, I just want to go through and introduce our panelists, starting, of course, with Connie Amarty, who is CEO of Collective Society 360. She, like, I won't read her bio verbatim, but if she thinks that I'm some kind of powerhouse, like, she is all over that, plus and then some. She's had her work, she's worked in various markets, and Collective Society was actually born, and sorry for speaking for you, Connie, just out of a buildup of last year's turmoil and emotion and just being a mother and a woman and how we can give back to the community. So she's been the one who's been spearheading Collective Society. So you can, you know, do a virtual applause for Connie. Or you can clap, that's okay too. All right, next up, We have Linda Rose, who is the general manager of Mary Kay Cosmetics, and we're so excited to have her. Like her bio says, she is a true Mary Kay ambassador. I got to hear her story of how she got into Mary Kay, and I'm hoping that we can kind of flesh that out a little bit more this evening. But she's devoted so much time to Mary Kay, but she's also been had a lifelong passion for helping other people and for uplifting women, because she knows that she didn't get to where she is alone, and she's made it part of her mission to do the same for others. So put it up for Linda. All right, next up. Are we going to watch this video? There we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Rose, General Manager of Mary Kay Cosmetics Limited. And over the last few months, our team at Mary Kay has been working hard to find an organization that empowers young professionals with a focus on entrepreneurial development for BIPOC youth. And now I'm excited to officially announce our partnership with Collective Society 360, a not-for-profit organization with a goal to do just that. I'm here with Connie Amerte, visionary and founder of Collective Society 360, to tell you a little bit about their approach and what our partnership has in store. So Connie, it is so great to connect with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Linda. We're so excited to launch this partnership with Mary Kay. You know what? We can make a huge difference and support BIPOC women and youth and give them additional resources to grow and excel. So thank you so much. So excited.
We are so excited too. And yes, we truly believe that education and resources can really open the door for endless possibilities. Yet we're aware that not everyone has the access to such resources, which is really where your Collective Society 360 comes into play. And I can't tell you how honored we are to support and be a part of your initiative, LeadHer, TeacHer, because it really aligns so perfectly with Mary Kay's philosophies. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about this initiative?
Great. Next up, we have McKinney Smith. McKinney is a mindset and lifestyle coach, an author and podcaster. You may know her from A Walk in My Stilettos, which is an amazing read. She's a 4-time published author, and she's the host of the 5-star rated A Walk in My Stilettos podcast, which Connie mentioned is in the top 2% of podcasts in the world. So that alone, hello. So welcome McKinney Smith as one of the panelists today.
Rather than sharing one-to-one, putting it into a book allowed me to share one-to-many. Continuing to speak my truth and getting it out there was part of my healing process. My brand is about authenticity and transparency. I share my relationship, I share my kids, I share my ups and my downs. And when I left that marriage, I was able to go through, the healing process of personal development. And that's when I decided to be more open and found the power in my vulnerability.
Okay. It's been a while, thanks to COVID. It's been a while since I've walked anywhere in stilettos. I don't know if you're going to do another edition, McKinney, no pressure, called a walk in my flip-flops, a walk in my Air Force Ones. I'm just putting it out there, no pressure. But let's get into the next panelist, Savannah Hamilton. You might recognize her as host and producer of Toronto Raptors TV. She has been at Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment for a while, and she's been in front of the camera where she hosts the Daily Raptors show, and she also has tons of experience working behind the camera and making things happen. We're so excited to have Savannah Hamilton as part of today's panel.
Big news, the WNBA and the Players Association have announced a new collective bargaining agreement.
You know, I feel like we're living through history right now, this very moment. This decision, whether they want to boycott the game tomorrow or not, is going to be a marker in history. At least the conversations are being had. There's so much on Twitter.
Have you voted for Fred VanVleet in the All-Star game yet? Bet on yourself and swipe up.
Welcome to the first ever virtual draft kicked off by the WNBA.
Punctuated by a reverberating yell that symbolized all of our emotions in one. The Kings of the North, crowned as the 2019 NBA champions.
Incorporated into it, every name, every letter was like hand-drawn to make sure every single name on there is honored and had time and attention.
In depth, but also as wide of an exposure to every aspect of the NBA.
All right, you can give it up for Savannah. She said something very important there, bet on yourself. And I think we're gonna explore some of those stories here today. Okay, what I wanna do is, now that we've had a chance to get to know the panelists a little bit, we want to be able to take a look back at that video from Michelle Obama, where she was talking a lot about access to education for women and how important it is to have education. How in some areas of the world, young women are fighting to be in school, they're raising families, and the desire to go to school sometimes results in possibly losing their lives, as we saw with Malala. What I want to do is I want to start with the panelists and ask them how education has impacted what they do today. And I do want to note that education isn't always academic. Sometimes education comes from experience, learning on the job, and life skills, which is just as important as having those letters behind your name and walking across the stage to get that paper. Connie, I'll start with you. How has life experiences or education been a part of your life and helped you get to where you are today?
So I'll be honest, I am from the School of Hard Knock life. I've learned a lot of the things that I have from trial and error, from growth, and of course, mentors and education along the way. But I mean, this is actually one of the things I speak about in Collective Society. You can have education, but education is something that's always ongoing from multiple sources. What if I graduated in 1997 and now it's we're in 2021? Obviously, along the way, you're going to have to fill things in, or there's some people who just feel that they've gone through enough, that have equivalent experience and or if not more. So I feel education is a state of mind. And then obviously the people that can't go to school and are told they can't do it and crave it, that's a sad state, because obviously education as well is important depending on what you want to do. If you want to get your MBA or your master's or become an expert of something and work in the government. So I think education on all levels is important in a full approach to it, from like I said, just learning on your own and learning through an institution.
Linda, how about you? How has either formal or informal education, life experiences, how has that impacted what you're doing today? Was that always the plan? how did you even get into the industry that you're in right now?
Well, I'm like Connie. I'm from the School of Hard Knocks, and probably in a position that I hold as general manager, you know, many of you would think I have my MBA, I have a business degree, and I don't have any of that. I did not attend post-secondary, but what I did do was I found a career that I was passionate about, which was cosmetics, and I've been in cosmetics my entire career. But that never stopped me from learning. And just like Connie, I was one of those individuals that wanted to align myself with people. I was willing to take a chance on me. I often put myself in positions that I wasn't maybe ready for, but I was always willing to learn. And I sought mentors and people around me that I wanted to align with and be more like. And that's how I learned. And, you know, and here I am, you know, running, you know, a large organization, but the same things apply. It's the passion, it's surrounding yourself with good people. So I would say to anybody that, you know, education comes in many forms. And, you know, I educated myself along the way. I joined associations, I joined groups where I could be a part of, where I would learn more. I think as long as you have a mindset that you're willing to learn and you're willing to listen, that is the key, because so many people, doesn't matter, you know, how many degrees you have, if you're not willing to listen and to learn from others, you're not going to grow and develop. And I think that was something that I always really focused on. So, you know, it's interesting to me that now I wouldn't even get this job because I don't have the degrees that you need to have. But I also think experience and those things are huge. And could I do it differently? I would absolutely do it. And is my son in university? He's absolutely in university, because times have changed. From, you know, many of the women that are on this call, it is important. So you do what you need to do, but I think passion and drive and the willingness to learn and to be teachable are the key things in life.
100%, because you never know everything about everything.
Nothing, yeah.
Even for what I've done with my career, not on the marketing side, but the DJing side, there was no school for DJing back then.
Right. Especially a female.
Especially a female. So I had to learn everything by teaching myself. I didn't have a crew of guys who would, you know, mentor me or teach me. And, you know, being a woman in that type of industry, you have to have thick skin and sharp teeth and claws. So all of the above came in handy, but especially that willingness to learn, because with the advance of technology, doing things the old way on two turntables doesn't always work. And that can be applied to anything in life. Things change, and you have to be adaptable and willing to learn.
Yeah, totally agree.
Savannah, how about you? How have life experience or formal education, how have they kind of combined to get you to where you are today?
Well, I could tell you this, I don't think I had as sharp teeth or claws when I started. I had to eventually grow some thick skin by the end of it to get me to where I am today. But, you know, I will say this, like, as to Linda's point, you know, aligning yourself with the people who could really teach you, the people who could help you. That's something that I learned and I did very, very fast. Like, I went to university. I have quite this journey, but, you know, on paper, I didn't go to the School of Hard Knocks, but I have had a whole different journey that I'm sure we'll get into a little bit. But, you know, part of it was I knew, even though I was in school, that it wasn't going to be enough. I knew for a fact that, like, walking off the stage with a paper degree wasn't going to make me meet the right people who are going to put me in the positions to succeed or to get me to where, well, I am today. So that's one thing I've definitely taken away. It's like networking is almost your biggest teacher right there. Sponsorship in terms of, you know, somebody, not just a mentor who's going to help you, but somebody who's going to vouch for you and have your back in this industry as well. So that's one thing I've learned, that education doesn't quite teach you in the classroom.
True. And Bikini, how about you? Where you are right now is very, very unique. How did you even get into the lane that you are right now?
So interesting enough, like, I truly believe that education, both formal and informal, are kind of like, I'm going to say, the pivotal in our growth. It's like we look at life every day, you know, people who go to school, people who graduated, whatever their degrees are, but our purpose is to learn every single day, whether it's learning through life experience, whether it's learning through class. So being intentional every day about learning something. Like I make sure that I wake up every day and I'm intentional about learning something new, whether that be from reading a book or listening to a podcast. I'm very intentional about that growth. So in terms of even getting to where I am today, my mentor only had 2 weeks of high school. Like people look at thought leaders like Bob Proctor and are like, wow, these people are, you know, multimillionaires and they're building these big businesses, but he didn't actually have formal education. He learned through being mentored by other people. So, you know, I strongly believe in education, yes, but it doesn't have to be formal. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just kind of staying along that same vein, one thing that a lot of us said is that there has to be a willingness to learn, an openness to learn, and understanding that you don't know everything. How have you been able to kind of navigate that, especially over the past year, when, you know, we've been isolated from some of our favorite people, from family members, from coworkers and colleagues, and life has completely changed to what it was before last March. Savannah, I'll start with you. How have you been able to kind of navigate that work-life balance and staying motivated to be open to this learning?
I'm gonna say that I feel like in the past pandemic, I've been able to make lemonade out of lemons, if you want to say it like that, because I know I'm very fortunate in my industry. So I work in content with the Raptors, right, as a host and a producer. And like when I got like put on more full time with the Raptors, content was the one thing that was consistent, if not increased in consumption. People were just at home all the time, just watching any form of sports that they could the moment the NBA came back in the bubble, or watching, you know, anything that was BLM related, especially in the height of everybody's emotions within it. And so there's a need for content. And so I want to say I got lucky, but it's kind of funny because, you know, if you hang around a barbershop long enough, you're bound to get a cut. So I was around, you know, MLSE before that for a long time hustling. So the time that the opportunity came of being, one, a Black female, two, you know, knowledgeable enough to talk about the subject. Funny enough is that we talk about education. I wanted to go to school to get a certificate or even considering a master's degree in diversity and inclusion. And like fast forward to what I'm doing as well at work is internally. And keep in mind that the Toronto Raptors is owned by Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. And that's the biggest entertainment company in Canada. I'm the lead of the storytelling and content for diversity and inclusion, like within it. So one thing that one of the EDI directors for diversity and inclusion told me, because I told him like, listen, I was planning on going to school for this. He was like, well, ain't nothing like the real thing. And I was like, absolutely. So this past year has given me a lot of opportunities, I would say, in my industry. So I got very fortunate that way. And so, you know, I would say that's something that I'm very grateful for. So yeah, that's how I've made, and as for work-life balance, well, to be honest, I've never had a great work-life balance. In a way, my work is a little bit essentially, my lifestyle. I don't like to separate the two, to be honest. When you do something that you love so much, like I'd be doing this as a hobby anyways. So I just am very fortunate to happen to get paid for doing it too.
Amazing. Linda, how about you? How have you managed to stay motivated? Because you're leading not just a small team, you're leading like a whole organization. And that's a lot of weight to carry, especially when the world and everything in it seems to be so heavy. Like, how have you been able to keep that openness and keep that willingness to learn and have it trickle out to your colleagues and to people who report to you?
Yeah, it was one of the biggest changes. And I think it was such a blessing because for us at Mary Kay, in my role, I'm responsible for, you know, about 100 employees in Canada. for the operations. But then I have 33,000 amazing women and men across the country that sell Mary Kay. And how do you keep them engaged, and how did we stay connected? And what I found was, as we went through this, we had many outdated assumptions as an organization. And we would say, well, we can't do that. And, we can't possibly do this. And we would take, time to kind of develop it so it was perfect. But we didn't have that time in a pandemic. I needed to get product out to them. I needed to make sure that they had the education tools. So for us as an organization, we moved quicker and faster, but we had to do that through increased communication, increased tools. And, our founder always said that you needed to be in front of people. Well, on Zoom, I'm still in front of people. So we created different forms of relationships. And it has been a real amazing time for us as an organization. We've had 14 months of consecutive growth during a pandemic when they can't, see people. But what it did was it reminded everybody the importance of relationships. So developing the relationships with my employees, having monthly calls with them on an employee meeting, department calls, meeting with my management team every single morning. The Salesforce, we adopted huge education platforms that they could learn, and we had our best leaders teaching. So I think for us, it challenged outdated assumptions and it made us do things differently, which has been an absolute blessing. For me personally, McKinney, what she said, that's my philosophy, is that I have to learn something every day. That has allowed me to go on more podcasts, to hear from other people. And my life is, Mary Kay is my life, and my life is, Mary Kay. It does intersect. I'm who I am outside of Mary Kay as I am who I am. I've often been told I'm too transparent. Well, that's who I am. That's how I lead. That's how I live my life. So for me, it's been an incredible learning. I moved to the country because I used to travel 100,000 miles a year, 57 flights, and then I wasn't traveling. And I hated my house and I hated people around me. And I moved to the country on an acre of land, and with my son, who's a zoology major. It's been a blessing. So it's exactly what you look for. If you look for it to be a pain, am I getting tired of it? Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm getting tired of it too. I want to get out of my house and do things, but I'm trying to find the blessings in it every day and trying to learn. So it's been great.
Awesome. And I know A Walk in My Stilettos is one of your favorite podcasts, right?
Yes, it is. Yes. Once I met McKinney, and I've ordered all of her books. So, I'm a fan, huge fan.
Nice. Plug, McKinney.
Yeah, plug.
Thank you. Same question for you, McKinney, because I know, as a mother, you're an entrepreneur. There's that added weight of, you've had to hustle before, but have you found that you've had to hustle even harder now throughout the pandemic? And how do you manage to keep not just yourself motivated, but the family?
So interesting enough, I've been self-employed since 2009. And then right before COVID happened, let's say around 2018, 2019, I started battling with health challenges. So I had started already positioning my business to be more virtual. So I was doing my coachings online. After my surgery and I was at home in bed, I was recording podcasts from my bed with my bonnet on. No one had no idea that I was still, putting out podcasts every week. But on top of all that, I'm a single mom of 3. So I was already juggling. I think as women, naturally, we're already better at multitasking. So I was already juggling being an entrepreneur, being a single mom, being a coach, doing all those things. And as Linda said, this pandemic has allowed me to thrive. I've found, especially as an introvert, I don't have to go out to networking and events and be uncomfortable. And most people don't know this, but those things terrify me, and I have panic attacks, and I leave the event after 15 minutes. So now it's I'm still a part of events where I'm able to serve and participate in, but it's I don't have to be in environments where I'm not thriving. I don't have to be in environments where I'm not in my area of genius. So I've been able to, thank God, to, have my whole business online, still do everything I do from behind my laptop. I've got my son, a desk for his room for him to homeschool. My kids understand once my ring light is on and my laptop is open, mute, hold the dog. So it's balancing all of those things. But like I said,
COVID has allowed me to thrive.
Amazing. And Connie, I want you to answer the question too. How have you been able to stay motivated? Because you, like I said, you started a whole organization during the pandemic, and that's in addition to everything else that you're doing and being a parent and, you know, the side hustles and trying to, you know, do your own thing. How have you managed to stay motivated, especially now?
That's a fully loaded question. Staying motivated to me has a lot of different parts to it. I had to actually go through a journey of self-discovery during this time, which I'm sure we've all done. You reflect and you start to humble yourself. You start to think back, did that really mean that much? Did that person really deserve that? Or what was I really doing? And I say that because my motivation came from actually seeing what other people have been doing before me during the pandemic and how they're hustling as well. So my motivation has actually come from the energy and powers of other and humbling myself to try to take a look to see how we can all honestly work together to make a difference. It doesn't matter who you are or what's happened before. That's what this is for sisterhood, where we can come together. So my motivation comes from that and wanting to provide an example for my kids around me as well, that no matter what, especially when you're feeling down and out, that's when you got to fight. That's when you got to work even harder. And why are we here if we're not making a difference and helping other people?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I would just add one, and if you look for opportunities, I was just able to get involved with an organization where I'm mentoring women in Lagos, Nigeria, young entrepreneurs. And it's been a blast to spend time with them because I'm at home. I'm not on this plane, and it fills my cup in order to make a difference. And, you know, I'm helping out Mrs. Chiquedo, who has her chicken and her goats, but she had a goat stolen on the weekend. So now we got to figure out some new things, how to do it. But you know, just opens the world and it makes you think differently. And I think there's always an opportunity to help and to assist and to give back whenever we can. It's so important.
1000%.
Yeah.
And I know that Connie mentioned a key word during her answer, and it kind of ties in with what you just said, Linda, and that's sisterhood. I know we have a poll that we wanted the participants, the viewers, to answer, just to get a feel of how we feel as women about sisterhood. Do you feel like you belong to a sisterhood? Do you have a network of friends that you rely on to kind of be your cheerleaders, be your mentors, your chosen family, and how they kind of affect your day-to-day and your motivation to get through challenges and the good times, celebrate the good times and your successes and your wins. Yes or no, or sometimes, because that's a possibility too. Do you feel like you belong to a sisterhood? While everyone is answering that, I did want to talk about challenges. We've faced a lot of challenges this past year and even before that. And I think as women, Makini had mentioned that we naturally multitask and there's a bazillion things going on, like we're on a Zoom call, cooking dinner, helping with homework, doing finances for the business, and then planning everybody's activity for the next month. What are some of the challenges that you've had? Whether professionally or personally, and how have you managed to kind of come through that difficult period and kind of find yourself on the other side of that challenge? And I know, speaking for me, this pandemic has completely changed how the entertainment industry is viewed, how it acts, how you plan things and how you deliver entertainment, and just being able to be adaptable and to pivot is something that I was able to do before, but because I had that flexibility, I found that I was able to do that much faster in this environment. Linda, how about you? What are some of the challenges that you've had to face, and how have you, what did you do to kind of find yourself on the other side of that challenge and resolve it?
Oh, Melissa, I've had a perfect track, no issues, no obstacles. Life has been perfect, right? Yeah, right. You know, and that's one of the traps that we have as women. I think this is one of the things I find is that we look at other women. I look at McKinney and I think she doesn't have any issues. How could she have any issues? She's beautiful. She's got 3 children. Life is perfect. We imagine that these people have a perfect life. People imagine that I have a perfect life, and my life was far from perfect. I mean, I was sexually abused as a kid for many, many years growing up. And I know that speaks to many people on this call that have been affected by that. I did discover at an early age the career that I wanted, which was to be into cosmetics. Didn't know how that was all going to work out, but it did. I ended up working for some great companies. At 25, I was running a major company that we had Giorgio Beverly Hills. Some of you are too young to even remember that fragrance, but if you remember it, it was really stinky and it gave you a headache, but it would sell out at Holt Renfrew in minutes. I worked with Iman on her cosmetic line, helping her to develop that and distribute it in Canada, which was an incredible experience. And then I made the decision, because I'd met my husband and I was never going to get married. That was never going to happen. But I met this amazing, very handsome Black man who swept me off my feet, and I married him, and I wasn't going to have children. And then sure enough, didn't I have a child? And I moved to a hair care company where I thought I would have more balance. Great company, very excited to be a part of that. 1 year into that company, I had my son Darius. And while I was on maternity leave, in those days, you got 6 months, they invited me or phoned me and said, we're going to promote you to national sales director. I thought, okay, this is great. On maternity leave, got a promotion. Life is good. The owner of the company phoned and said, I need you to be in Vancouver for a meeting. I'm on maternity leave, right? You know, I don't technically have to go, but I kind of know I need to go. The challenge is my husband at the time was a homicide detective. There was a murder and he couldn't be with Darius. My parents were in Florida and I'm an only child. So I phoned her back and said, okay, I figured it out. I'm going to come in Tuesday, but I have to fly home Friday. And she phoned me back and she said, no, the flights are cheaper. You have to stay till Sunday. And I said, well, then I'm not doing it. I can't. My son is important. I don't have anyone to take care of him. She phoned me back a half hour later and said, your presence is no longer required at the meeting. And I knew what that meant. And when I went back to work in September, 2 days later, she flew out and she fired me. And her exact words were that your son is more important than the business, and we can't use you anymore. So for me at that time, at 36 years of age, I was so attached to the title I had, it almost killed me, because I was always a high performer. I worked hard. I worked harder because I didn't have the education. I thought I had to prove myself all the time. And I was now at home with this beautiful little boy, but my self-esteem was in the toilet. And a dear, dear friend signed me up for a class because I always like to do extra learning. And we walked into this class and there was 4 people in it. And I'm like, really? The woman had just been on Oprah on Monday. So I saw her on the Wednesday, and the class was called Simple Abundance. And the leader was Sarah Van Brethnack. And she taught me the most important lesson that I ever learned, which was gratitude. That when you focus on the little things in your life, the big things will happen. And she told me that night to go home and buy a journal and write down 5 things every day that I was grateful for. I was not grateful for anything. I would write things like, I'm a good cook. I'm a good mom. None of those things. I'm not a good cook. I am now, but I wasn't at 36. I can tell you that. But shortly after that, I would drive past Mary Kay every single day. And my husband at the time would say to me, why don't you just apply there? They sell cosmetics. And I'm like, are you kidding? They all have blue hair and drive pink cars. I am not working for that organization. What I failed to find out was the culture of that organization and how much they had a great focus, which was God first, family second, career third. And when I started to read about this organization, I thought this aligns with my own values. And after 22 interviews, I had 12 in Dallas in one day. I was hired as the director of sales development. But what I learned from that was to have gratitude. And I even forget what your question, because now I'm rambling, but there were many, many obstacles. And even when I joined this amazing company that took care of their people, it was hard as a woman, because My boss at the time, I traveled a lot, but he'd come home and his wife unpacked his bag. His wife would pack his bag when he had to go. I came home, I had to do the laundry. I had my husband, who had a master's degree, apparently didn't know how to fill out the pizza forms for the kid at school, right? I was like, are you kidding me? So I'm going to tell you, ladies, if I can give you anything, they told me to be transparent. So Connie, I apologize in advance, but Superwoman is dead. You know what? Don't focus on perfection, focus on excellence, because nothing is perfect. You know, and I said to Darius one day, I said, do you mind that mommy traveled a lot? Did that bother you? And he said, no, you were always there for my PA days. And he said, now we go on really cool trips and I get to do really cool things. So when we try to say that my kid is going to be traumatized because I didn't hit the soccer class or hit the soccer game, I think as women, we have to give ourselves grace. And grace is hard, and it is hard to balance it all. And I'm never going to tell you that it's easy and it's perfect, because it isn't. My marriage, we lasted 23 years. We are still the best friends today, but so much I learned from that. You know, it's just, you can't be Superwoman. You got to be the best that you can be. And the only person you can bet on is you. So gratitude is still a priority that I have every single day. I write every single day in my journal the things I'm grateful for. And I really watch the track that I'm telling myself in my head, because that's always the worst track, is what you're saying to yourself. And when you learn to reprogram that, you can do anything.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. You said so many gems in there.
Right? When's your book coming, Linda?
I know.
I've been watching Makini, so apparently I need to reach out to her to help me to write my book. So I'll be, yeah.
I got you.
I know you got.
I love it.
And you know what, if I can just riff off of what Linda was saying as well, it's so important. I had this conversation with someone the other day to acknowledge small wins. Acknowledge small wins. Everyone, just take that in for a second, because we're so busy on going on to the next that we forget to live in the moment and celebrate. I've told Savannah this as well. We've probably had this conversation with everyone I know lately. Even with Building Collective and the team, like, we have a beautiful team that's forming. And then even as a collective, we're like, okay, on to the next. And let's take a moment. Let's say we are okay. We've done a good job. Live in that moment of the small wins, and it starts getting a little bit easier, because, you know, it's not easy. You have to, for us who have kids, you have to be, you know, the caretaker, the housekeeper, the lover, you know, like, there's so many different roles that we have as women that we don't stop and appreciate the small things, and it builds up to eventually you just want to explode if you don't do that. So that's something, a nugget there too.
Yeah. Sorry, Makini, did you have something to add? I see you nodding vigorously.
Like every time Linda was speaking, I was like checking off. I'm like, yep. Even when there was a point where you said something about, you know, your son, even when you asked him the question of, did that traveling affect him? I remember when my first book came out in 2014. And then after that, I started getting speaking engagements all over the world. I was doing book signings in South Africa. And someone had made a comment to me that somebody said to them, like, how can I be a good mother if I'm never home? And I was like, okay, so the fact that my kids have a roof over their head. When I am home, they get warm lunch. I do drop them off to school. I sit there and do their homework with them. I am there because I'm self-employed. My kids, and even when you talk about the, you know, Mary Kay's philosophies, like, for me, it's my faith first, my family, and then my business. So I make sure that even today in my schedule, my kids know, like, Sunday and when I'm praying and all those things, those are number one, those are important. But then I put in my appointments for my kids into my calendar, whether it be doctor's appointments or what have you, making dinner, those are priority first. And then my clients get to schedule in after that. But, you know, Mel, when you're talking about adversity, so I'm like, that's my whole life. That is my whole life. I mean, I grew up in government housing. I had a single mom. We watched people around us die from drugs and guns and all kinds of things.
I became a mother at 17. Life was not easy. I tell you, I looked like I was 12 at the time. You know, I had a narcissistic, abusive marriage, and then I had to deal with divorce, and then my sister passing away. And a couple years ago, I had 3 cancer scares in 1 year, but nobody really knew what I was experiencing because I was still showing up. I was still putting out podcasts. I was still showing up on social media. I was trying to be superwoman. And then I had to learn to give myself that grace and stop chasing the next accomplishment. I stopped looking at like the next thing I can check off my list. And this past year, I don't know, maybe that's why I've been thriving in my business, but my focus has been self-care. My focus has been making sure, not that I'm, you know, getting that next accomplishment. It's making sure that I feel at peace. It's making sure that I feel loved. It's making sure that I feel comfort and freedom and belonging. Those are the things that I've been focused on. And because I'm prioritizing me and filling up my cup, all the adversities that I've gone through, I have coping mechanisms in place right now, but it's allowed me to feel like, despite everything that I've been through, what did I learn through those things? And how can I be a better person today? And who can I help tomorrow?
Mel, can I just say something? I think what McKinney said was so important. And I don't know anybody that has had a mentor or somebody that's talked to you along the way. Everybody will tell you the same thing, that you need to make time for yourself. You need to invest in you. So many people that I mentor don't believe in that. And they think, well, you don't understand, I'm too busy. But I want you to bet that there's a common theme. Connie, myself, McKinney, Savannah, Mel. That is something that we have developed. And I would encourage you to at a young age, to put that time in for yourself. It's not lip service. What she's saying, I so agree with you, McKinney, that if we don't focus on us first, you can't be a balanced leader. You can't be the good mom. And so many people think you can just, oh, I'll do that later. No, start with you first and the rest will fall into place.
Someone had once broken it down for me in terms of the instructions the flight attendant gives at the beginning of a flight, where they say, you know, if you're traveling with small children, make sure you put on your own oxygen mask before you put on the others, because you can't help other people if you're not able to set aside that time to help yourself first and build yourself up, because that strength has to come from within. So 100%. I'm just, oh gosh, I got goosebumps. Damn, okay. Thanks, Linda.
So can I get real, guys? We said we're gonna get real, and this is also real, and we're really pouring our heart. Linda, look what you've started. So now my question is, we're saying this, and it's so true, and it's all the things we've got to do, but what happens when we actually go there? When we go in the rabbit hole? How do we help each other? We're saying sisterhood. What does that mean? And how do we pull ourselves out? That is some things that we're all going through right now.
I mean, for me, I'm not one of these people that ask for help. That's been one of the worst traits I have. I tend to want to do it myself, right? Nature is huge. Getting out for a walk. I get up every day at 5 a.m. I sit and read, you know, my Bible. I do my meditation. I might listen to a podcast, but I have to go within in order to get out. And sometimes that means privately doing what I need to do on my own. When I have tough decisions that just rock my world and I'm freaking out, I don't make that decision in that moment. I wait 24 hours or something. So, hey, I struggle with weight, like constantly with, I mean, it's not just COVID, it's my emotional self-worth from being abused. And my husband, I mean, he was a great guy, but he would often say, you know, put a little bit of weight on. And so my own self-esteem, that what I tend to portray to the outside world is not always how I'm feeling. I'd lost 20 pounds. I think I put 5 back on in the last week because I was having a rough week. I was feeling down. So what did I do? I had to listen to more podcasts. I pulled out the books. And I don't want it. You don't want to do them when you're in those moments. And then sometimes I sit on the couch and watch Netflix if that's going to make me feel better. But I try to put a time limit on it and say, okay, enough is enough. You got to get out of this now. But it's hard. I mean, and for anybody to say that it's easy and portray that, it's not true. For me, it's not true.